Admiral John Carter stood at the viewport of the USS Defiant, his eyes fixed on the stars. The ship hummed quietly around him. 58 years old, with gray hair and a face marked by years of service, he had seen many things in his time exploring space. But nothing like this. "Admiral, we have confirmed visual contact," said Lieutenant Frank Nelson from his station. His voice was steady, but his hands shook slightly as they moved across the control panel. John nodded and turned to the main screen. "Show me." The screen flickered to life, revealing what looked like floating crystals against the blackness of space. As the image zoomed in, the crystals took shape. Massive ships, their hulls reflecting light in ways that seemed impossible. They were beautiful and terrifying all at once. "How many?" John asked. 27 large vessels, sir, each one approximately 3 times the size of the Defiant." The bridge fell silent. Humanity had been exploring space for nearly a century now. They had built colonies on Mars and Europa. They had even established outposts on planets orbiting nearby stars. They had found simple life forms, bacteria on Europa, plant-like organisms on Kepler 442b, but never anything intelligent. Until today. Lieutenant Susan Miller approached the Admiral. As the ship's xenolinguist, she had spent the last 6 hours trying to make sense of the signals coming from the alien fleet. "Sir, I think I've made progress with their communication," she said. "It's not exactly a language as we understand it. It seems to be partly mathematical, partly something else entirely." "Can you tell what they want?" John asked. Susan hesitated. "I believe so, sir, and it's not good news. They're demanding access to Earth's resources, all of them. Water, minerals, biological materials, everything." Commander Peter Wright, the tactical officer, stepped forward. At 42, he had served with John for over a decade. "And if we refuse?" Susan's face paled. "The message includes what appears to be footage of other planets. Planets that refused." She tapped her tablet, and the main screen changed to show a green world not unlike Earth. Then a flash of light. When the image cleared, the planet's surface was scorched and lifeless. John's jaw tightened. "How long do we have?" "They've given us 48 hours to begin the resource transfer," Susan replied. Peter shook his head. "That's not going to happen. We need to warn Earth, prepare our defenses." "Our weapons won't make a dent in those ships," said Chief Engineer Linda Morris, who had been running simulations since the aliens appeared. "Their hulls seem to bend energy around them. Our lasers would be useless." John looked at each of his officers in turn. "We may be outgunned, but we're not beaten yet. Humanity has faced impossible odds before." Just then, the communication officer, Ensign Greg Wilson, called out, "Sir, the Neptune outpost is reporting they're under attack." The screen switched to show the research station orbiting Neptune. Hundreds of scientists and their families lived there. As they watched, beams of blue light shot from 3 of the alien ships. The outpost didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist, as if it had been erased from reality. "They said 48 hours, John whispered. "Sir," Susan said, her voice breaking, "I think that was just to keep us talking while they positioned their fleet." The bridge erupted in activity. John began issuing orders. "Send warnings to all human settlements. Tell Earth to prepare for possible evacuation, and get me every bit of data we have on those ships. There has to be a weakness." As the crew rushed to obey, John turned back to the viewport. In all his years of service, he had never felt so small, so helpless. But beneath the fear, something else stirred, a determination that burned like fire in his veins. "Peter," he said quietly to his tactical officer, "remember the Battle of Europa, when those separatists had us cornered?" Peter nodded. "You found a way out then too. Used the ice geysers to mask our approach. We need that kind of thinking now, something they won't expect." In the next 24 hours, the aliens, who called themselves the Xerillians, destroyed 2 more outposts. Each time there was no warning, no chance to evacuate. Earth governments panicked. Some wanted to surrender, to give the Xerillians whatever they wanted. Others prepared for a fight they knew they couldn't win. But aboard the Defiant, John Carter and his crew worked without rest. They analyzed every bit of data from the attacks, looking for patterns, for any sign of weakness in the seemingly invincible enemy. It was Susan who found the first clue. Their attacks follow a precise mathematical sequence, she said, pointing to her findings. They're too perfect, too predictable. Linda, who had been studying debris from the destroyed outposts, made the next breakthrough. The way their weapons work, it's some kind of quantum tunneling. They're not destroying matter, they're shifting it somewhere else. Armed with this knowledge, John developed a plan. It was dangerous, possibly suicidal, but it might give Earth the time it needed. The Defiant would approach the Xerillian fleet alone. Using modified communication arrays, they would broadcast a signal designed to disrupt the mathematical precision of the aliens' attack patterns. Meanwhile, they would release probes containing quantum irregularity generators, devices Linda had created based on her analysis. They won't destroy the Xerillians, she warned, but they might confuse their targeting systems long enough for us to learn more about them. As the Defiant moved toward the alien fleet, John addressed his crew. I won't lie to you, we may not survive this encounter, but what we learned today could save billions of lives tomorrow. Throughout history, humanity has faced threats that seemed unbeatable, and each time we've adapted, we've survived. That's what we do best. The crew stood a little straighter, their faces set with determination. As the massive crystal ships grew larger on the view screen, John felt a strange calm settle over him. The Xerillians had made a critical mistake. They had attacked without truly understanding their enemy. They didn't know that humans, when backed into a corner, didn't simply surrender and die. They fought, they adapted, they evolved. And as the Defiant moved into position to launch its desperate counterstrike, John Carter knew one thing with absolute certainty. This was not the end of humanity. It was just the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter where humans would either rise to become something greater than they had ever been, or perish in the attempt. Either way, the Xerillians would learn that humans were not to be underestimated. 6 months passed since the Xerillians first appeared. 6 months of battles, losses, and small victories. 6 months that changed humanity forever. Dr. Alan Ross stood in his laboratory on Lunar Base Alpha, surrounded by pieces of alien technology. His once neat hair was now long and unkempt. Dark circles shadowed his eyes from too many sleepless nights. Yet those eyes burned with fierce determination as he studied the crystal-like material, recovered from a damaged Xerillian ship. It responds to thought patterns, he muttered to his assistant, Judy Baker. Not just any thoughts, specific neural frequencies. Judy nodded as she adjusted her scanner. At 32, she had been a promising physicist before the invasion. Now she was part of humanity's most important research team. The Xerillians must have evolved differently than humans, she said. Their brains probably operate on mathematical precision rather than our messy emotional patterns. Alan touched the crystal fragment and it glowed faintly blue. That's it, Judy, that's exactly it. His tired face broke into a smile. Their technology expects mathematical thinking. Perfect, logical, predictable. But human brains are chaotic, Judy finished. We have emotion, intuition, creativity. Alan picked up the crystal, excitement building in his voice. What if that's why their weapons sometimes malfunction near our ships? What if our very thought patterns interfere with their technology? While Alan and his team worked on understanding Xerillian technology, another battle was being fought on Earth. In an underground facility in what was once Colorado, General Catherine Bell addressed the United Earth Defense Council. The situation remains critical, she said, her strong voice filling the room. We've lost the Mars colonies and most of our outer system outposts, but Earth's defense line is holding. On the large screen behind her, red dots showed Xerillian positions. Blue dots showed the remaining human forces. There were far fewer blue dots than there had been a month ago. How? Asked a council member. How are we still alive when their technology is so far beyond ours? Catherine's face showed a hint of pride. Because we're adapting. Every encounter teaches us something new. We're learning to predict their attack patterns. We're finding ways to disrupt their targeting systems. She nodded to a young officer who stepped forward with a tablet. And now, we have this. The plans for our first hybrid vessel. The screen changed to show a ship design unlike anything seen before. It combined human engineering with elements clearly inspired by Xyrillian technology. Dr. Ross and his team have made breakthrough after breakthrough, Catherine continued. They've discovered that human neural patterns can interface with Xyrillian tech in ways the aliens never anticipated. Our chaotic thinking actually gives us an advantage. Construction of the first hybrid ship began immediately. Old national borders meant nothing now. Chinese factories worked alongside American engineers. Russian scientists collaborated with Japanese computer experts. The entire planet focused on a single goal: survival. The shipyards orbiting Earth worked day and night. The first hybrid vessel took shape, sleeker than traditional human ships with a crystalline core that pulsed with blue energy. Captain Maria Gonzalez walked through the half-finished corridors of what would become the HSS Resilience. At 39, she had already proven herself in 3 major battles against the Xyrillians. Her quick thinking had saved countless lives when the aliens attacked the Europa colony. "How does it feel?" asked Chief Engineer Steve Bennett as they entered the bridge. Maria ran her hand along the control panel, which was unlike any she had seen before. Instead of traditional buttons and screens, there were crystal interfaces that seemed to respond to her presence. "Strange," she admitted, "but also right somehow." Steve nodded. "The neural interface will be installed tomorrow. Dr. Ross says it will allow you to control the ship with your thoughts, not just basic commands, everything. Weapons, shields, navigation. The whole ship will be an extension of you." Maria tried to imagine it. "Will it hurt?" "No, but it will be intense. Your brain connected to all the ship's systems. No one has ever experienced anything like it." 3 weeks later, the HSS Resilience was ready for its first test flight. Maria sat in the captain's chair, a thin circlet of metal and crystal around her head, the neural interface that would connect her to the ship. "Neural link activating in 3, 2, 1, announced the technical officer. Maria gasped as her consciousness expanded. Suddenly she could feel every part of the ship as if it were her own body. She could sense the energy flowing through the engines, the status of every system, the position of every crew member. "Captain?" Steve's voice seemed to come from both his mouth and directly into her mind. "Are you okay?" Maria took a deep breath, adjusting to the strange new awareness. "Yes, it's incredible." She focused her thoughts, and the ship's engines hummed to life. No verbal commands needed, no buttons pressed. Just pure thought translated instantly to action. As the Resilience moved away from Earth, Maria felt a surge of hope for the first time in months. The ship responded to her thoughts faster than any conventional vessel could respond to commands. When she mentally simulated evasive maneuvers, the ship executed them perfectly, moving in ways that would be impossible for traditional human ships. In the following weeks, 20 more hybrid vessels were completed. Each captain underwent the HFY neural interface procedure. Each experienced the same expansion of consciousness, the same intimate connection to their ship. On Earth, Dr. Alan Ross watched the fleet take shape with a mixture of pride and wonder. "We've done more in 6 months than we might have accomplished. In a century without the Xyrillian threat," he told Judy as they observed the ships from a viewport. "Necessity," she replied. "The mother of invention." Alan nodded. "The Xyrillians thought they were attacking a weaker species. They had no idea what they were really doing." "What were they doing?" Judy asked. Alan's eyes reflected the lights of the fleet as he answered. "Forcing us to evolve, to become something new, something stronger." As the hybrid fleet prepared for its first mission, a counterattack against the Xyrillian forward base in the Alpha Centauri system, humanity stood at a turning point. They were no longer simply fighting for survival. They were transforming, adapting in ways no one could have predicted, and the Xyrillians, for all their advanced technology, had no idea what was coming for them. Captain Maria Gonzalez stood on the bridge of the HSS Resilience, her mind connected to every part of the ship through the neural interface. Around her, 50 hybrid vessels moved in perfect formation toward the Xerillian forward base in the Alpha Centauri system. Each ship was piloted by a captain wearing a similar neural interface, their thoughts linked to their vessels and to each other through a network designed by Dr. Ross. "We're approaching the outer defense perimeter," Maria thought, and her words reached every captain in the fleet instantly. The Xerillian base came into view on their screens. It was massive, a crystalline structure that sparkled against the darkness of space. Around it, over 100 alien ships patrolled in precise patterns. "They haven't detected us yet," reported Captain Eric Johnson from the HSS Valiant. "The stealth systems are working." Maria felt a surge of pride. The stealth technology was one of their newest adaptations, based on how Xerillian ships bent light around their hulls. Human engineers had studied this effect and improved upon it, creating vessels that were nearly invisible until they chose to reveal themselves. "Remember the plan," Maria reminded the fleet. "We hit hard and fast. Target their command ships first, then their weapons platforms. Stay unpredictable. That's our advantage." Lieutenant Daniel Foster piloted one of the smaller strike fighters. That would lead the attack. At 28, he was one of the youngest pilots in the fleet, but also one of the most naturally talented. His neural connection to his ship was stronger than most, allowing him to perform maneuvers that seemed impossible. "Strike team ready," he reported, his small fighter hovering near the Resilience. "Just give the word, Captain." Maria took a deep breath. "Begin the attack." The human fleet dropped their stealth fields simultaneously. Before the Xerillians could react, 20 strike fighters led by Daniel shot forward, moving in chaotic patterns that no computer could predict. The Xerillian ships, caught by surprise, began to fire their weapons. Blue beams of energy sliced through space. But the human vessels moved too erratically to hit. Their pilots, thinking with human intuition rather than alien logic, zigged when they should have zagged, accelerated when they should have slowed. Daniel's fighter spun and rolled, approaching a large Xerillian vessel from below. "I'm noticing something," he called through the neural net. "Their ships have weak points at the junction between the crystal segments. If we hit them at the right angle..." He fired his weapons, aiming precisely at one such junction. The crystal cracked, then shattered along what looked like a predetermined line. Part of the alien ship broke away, spinning into space. "Everyone copy that?" Maria asked. "Target the crystal junctions." The information spread instantly through the neural net. Across the battlefield, human ships adjusted their tactics, aiming for the newly discovered weakness. The Xerillians, facing an attack pattern they had never encountered before, struggled to adapt. Their ships, designed for mathematical precision, couldn't match the unpredictable movements of the human vessels. For the first time, the aliens were on the defensive. On the bridge of the Resilience, Maria directed the battle with thoughts rather than words. Through the neural interface, she could see the entire battlefield, sense the position of every ship, feel the ebb and flow of combat as if it were a living thing. "They're trying to regroup," she noted, as the Xerillian vessels began to form a defensive pattern. "Don't let them. Keep them off balance." The human fleet responded instantly, breaking into smaller groups that attacked from multiple directions. It was chaos, but controlled chaos, humanity's specialty. Daniel's strike team pushed deeper into the alien formation, targeting ship after ship. His neural connection allowed him to feel his fighter as an extension of his own body, reacting with instinct rather than conscious thought. When a Xerillian beam weapon fired, he was already moving before his conscious mind registered the danger. "Their crystal hulls fracture in predictable patterns," he reported as he destroyed his fifth enemy vessel. "Once you crack them in one spot, the damage follows set lines like breaking glass along a score." This information, too, spread through the neural net, improving the effectiveness of human attacks even further. The battle had been raging for less than an hour, but already the tide was turning. The Xerillians, who had expected another easy victory, found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move. Maria directed the Resilience toward the heart of the alien fleet, where a massive command ship coordinated the Xerillian defense. "All ships focus fire on the command vessel," she ordered. Daniel, take your team and target their communications array. Daniel's strike fighters swooped toward the command ship, dodging defensive fire with impossible maneuvers. Human pilots, thinking with intuition rather than logic, did things no alien would predict, rolling when they should have climbed, accelerating when they should have evaded. Target acquired, Daniel announced as his fighters reached the communications array. Firing now. The combined firepower of 12 strike fighters hit the crystal structure simultaneously. Cracks spread across its surface, following the natural fracture lines of the material. With a silent flash, the array shattered. Without their central command, the Xyrillian fleet fell into disarray. Their precise formations broke down. Their coordinated defense crumbled. Press the advantage, Maria ordered. All ships, attack at will. The human fleet surged forward, targeting one alien vessel after another. Ships that had seemed invincible just months ago now broke apart under concentrated fire. 3 hours after the battle began, it was over. The Xyrillian base was destroyed, its defenders either destroyed or in retreat. For the first time since the war began, humanity had won a decisive victory. As the human fleet regrouped, Maria disconnected from the neural interface. The sudden return to normal consciousness left her dizzy but exhilarated. "We did it," she whispered, looking around at her crew. "We actually did it." Chief Engineer Steve Bennett nodded, his face showing equal parts exhaustion and joy. "And we captured several intact Xyrillian vessels. The research teams are going to have a field day." News of the victory spread throughout human space at light speed. On Earth, in the underground command center, General Catherine Bell received the report with tears in her eyes. "It's just the beginning," she told the United Earth Defense Council. "But it is a beginning." In his laboratory on Lunar Base Alpha, Dr. Alan Ross watched the data coming in from the battle. "Do you see what this means?" he asked Judy Baker. "The Xyrillians aren't invincible. They have weaknesses. And more importantly, we're learning, adapting, faster than they can." Judy nodded, studying the battle recordings. "They don't understand how we think. They can't predict us." "And that," Alan said with a smile, "might just be enough to save us all." Throughout human space, people celebrated the first real victory since the war began. Recruitment centers were flooded with volunteers. Manufacturing facilities doubled their output. A wave of hope replaced the fear that had dominated for 6 long months. The Xyrillians had awakened something in humanity that had been dormant for generations: our capacity to adapt, to innovate, and to survive against all odds. And now, the galaxy was about to learn just how dangerous we could be when pushed too far. Dr. Laura Bennett leaned close to the observation window, studying the Xyrillian prisoner on the other side. 3 months had passed since the victory at Alpha Centauri, and humanity had captured several aliens during the battle. This one, designated Subject 7, sat perfectly still in the center of the room, its crystalline skin reflecting the soft light. "There's something we're missing," Laura said to her assistant, George Harris. "Their brain activity doesn't make sense." Laura was a neurologist who had studied animal brains before the war. Now she was trying to understand how alien minds worked. Subject 7's brain patterns were unlike anything she had seen before. "Look at these readings," she pointed to her screen. "When we captured these individuals, they were separated from their fleet. Their brain activity changed dramatically at that moment." George nodded. "Almost like they lost part of their consciousness." Laura's eyes widened as something clicked into place. "That's it. They're not fully individual beings. They're connected somehow, a collective mind." She quickly pulled up data from the other captured Xyrillians. The patterns matched. This explains so much: their perfect coordination in battle, their mathematical precision, their lack of creativity. "A hive mind?" George asked. "Not exactly, more like networked computers. They maintain individual bodies, but their consciousness is shared." Laura's mind raced with the implications. "And when we cut them off from the network, they become less effective," George finished. "Less intelligent." Laura nodded. "This is a critical weakness. We need to tell General Bell immediately." While Laura made her discovery, Intelligence Officer Ryan Cooper worked in a secure facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. For weeks, he had been trying to decrypt the data core from a captured Xerillian ship. Today, he finally succeeded. "My God," he whispered as the alien text translated to English on his screen. The data revealed a disturbing truth. Humans weren't the first species the Xerillians had attacked. Dozens of civilizations had fallen before them, their resources harvested, their people enslaved or exterminated. The Xerillians saw themselves as the rightful rulers of the galaxy, with all other species existing merely to serve them. Ryan scrolled through the records of conquest after conquest. The pattern was always the same. The Xerillians would arrive without warning, demand surrender, and then attack regardless of the response. They would take what they wanted and destroy the rest. But what really caught Ryan's attention was the last section of data. It showed the Xerillian leaders discussing humanity and showing signs of concern for the first time. "The humans adapt too quickly," one report stated. "Their chaotic thought patterns make them unpredictable. Standard conquest protocols may be insufficient." Ryan immediately sent the information to General Bell. This was too important to wait. In the United Earth Defense Headquarters, Catherine Bell reviewed both reports with growing excitement. Laura's discovery about the Xerillian collective consciousness and Ryan's intelligence about their past conquests painted a clear picture and suggested a possible path to victory. "Dr. Ross," she called through the video link to Lunar Base Alpha, "I have a new project for you. The highest priority." Alan Ross listened carefully as Catherine explained what they had learned. "A weapon that disrupts their collective consciousness," he said thoughtfully. "It's possible. The neural interfaces we developed for our ships work on similar principles." "How long would it take?" Catherine asked. "Months, not years," Alan replied. "But there's a problem. It would need to be deployed at the center of their empire, at their homeworld. We have its location from the captured data, but it's deep in their territory." Catherine nodded grimly. "I'll handle that part. You build the weapon." The project was codenamed Phoenix. Scientists from around the world were brought in, all working under Alan's direction. They combined human neuroscience with reverse-engineered Xerillian technology, creating a device that could disrupt the aliens' collective consciousness. Meanwhile, Ryan continued to study the captured data. "There's something else here," he told Catherine during a briefing. "Information about other species the Xerillians have conquered. Some of them might still exist as slave races. If we could contact them, we might find allies," Catherine finished. "Good work, Ryan. Set up a team to identify any potential friendly species." As Phoenix neared completion, Catherine called a meeting with her top officers. The room was secure, deep underground, safe from Xerillian detection. "We have one chance at this," she said, looking at each person in turn. "One chance to strike at the heart of their empire." Captain William Hayes, who had distinguished himself in recent battles, nodded. "The stealth ship will get us there." The HSS Shadow was humanity's newest achievement, a vessel designed to be completely invisible to Xerillian sensors. It incorporated everything humans had learned about the aliens' technology. "The mission is simple but dangerous," Catherine continued. "Captain Hayes will lead a small team on the Shadow. They will penetrate Xerillian space, reach their homeworld, and deploy the Phoenix device. Admiral Carter will lead the main fleet in a diversionary attack to draw attention away from the Shadow." The room was silent as everyone considered the risks. The Xerillian homeworld would be heavily defended. Even with stealth technology, the mission was likely to be a one-way trip. "I won't order anyone to volunteer," Catherine said quietly. "This mission—" "I'm in," William interrupted. "My crew and I have already discussed it." One by one, others volunteered as well. Lieutenant Olivia Martinez, the best pilot in the fleet. Engineer Paul Jackson, who had helped design the Shadow. Medical Officer Samantha Lee, who had treated wounded from a dozen battles with the Xerillians. As the meeting ended, Catherine took William aside. "You understand the odds?" William nodded. "We all do. But if there's even a small chance of ending this war, it's worth it." Catherine studied his face. William was only 35, with a wife and young son back on Earth. Yet here he was, volunteering for what might be a suicide mission. Why? She asked simply. William thought for a moment before answering. Because throughout history, humans have accomplished the impossible when our backs were against the wall. And right now, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for every world the Ceruleans have conquered or will conquer if we fail. The next day, as the Phoenix device was loaded onto the Shadow, Dr. Alan Ross gave William a final briefing. The device works by introducing chaos into their ordered minds, he explained. It won't harm them physically, but it will disrupt their collective consciousness, forcing individuality upon beings that have never known separate thought. William nodded. And that will stop them? It should, Alan said. Without their hive mind, they'll lose most of their coordination and technological advantage. They'll still be dangerous, but no more so than any other species. As William turned to leave, Alan added, "There's something else you should know. This device, it's not a weapon of destruction. It's a weapon of change. Remember that." The Shadow departed Earth under cover of darkness, its mission known to only a handful of people. As it vanished into the depths of space heading toward the heart of the Cerulean Empire, humanity held its breath. The fate of not just Earth, but countless worlds throughout the galaxy, now rested on the shoulders of a small crew of humans, AEE, species that just 1 year ago had never encountered alien life. A species that, against all odds, had adapted and evolved to face a threat beyond imagination. A species that was about to show the galaxy just how dangerous they could be. The space around the Cerulean homeworld erupted in flashes of light as the main human fleet engaged the alien defenders. Admiral John Carter stood on the bridge of the HSS Defiance, now the flagship of humanity's forces. His weathered face showed no emotion as he directed the battle, but inside his heart raced. Everything depended on this day. "Keep their attention focused on us," he ordered. "The Shadow needs every second we can give them." The human fleet had improved dramatically since the first encounters with the Ceruleans. Each ship now incorporated alien technology, enhanced by human ingenuity. The neural interfaces allowed captains to control their vessels with thought alone, moving with a speed and precision that matched the aliens, but the Ceruleans still outnumbered them 5-1. This wasn't a battle the humans expected to win. It was a distraction, a sacrifice to give Captain William Hayes and the crew of the Shadow their chance. Far from the main battle, the Shadow slipped through the Cerulean defense grid. The stealth ship was humanity's masterpiece, invisible to alien sensors, its hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Lieutenant Olivia Martinez piloted the vessel with extraordinary skill, navigating between automated defense platforms and patrol ships. "We're approaching the atmosphere," she reported quietly, though there was no need for whispers. The ship's stealth systems would prevent any sound from escaping. William nodded, his eyes on the tactical display. The Cerulean homeworld looked beautiful from space, a crystalline planet that sparkled like a jewel. Hard to believe it was the center of an empire that had destroyed dozens of civilizations. "Take us down," he ordered. "Aim for the coordinates we identified from the captured data." The Shadow descended through the atmosphere, its heat shields glowing briefly before adaptive cooling systems compensated. Below them, vast crystal cities spread across the planet's surface, connected by lines of light that pulsed with energy. "Those must be their consciousness networks," said Engineer Paul Jackson, pointing to the glowing lines. "Just like Dr. Bennett described, their minds are literally connected through those pathways." Olivia guided the ship toward a massive structure at the center of the largest city. According to the intelligence they had gathered, this was the central nexus of the Cerulean consciousness, the heart of their collective mind. "Defense systems ahead," she warned as they approached. "They can't see us, but they might detect our engine emissions if we get too close." William made a quick decision. "Set us down here. We'll go the rest of the way on foot." The Shadow landed silently in a crystal forest near the city's edge. William led his team out, each wearing specialized armor designed for the alien environment. The Phoenix device, no larger than a backpack, was strapped to William's back. 1 kilometer to the target, he said, checking his scanner. Stay alert. Even if they can't see us, they might sense something wrong. The team moved quickly through the crystal forest, the alien trees chiming softly as they passed. The city loomed ahead, towers of light stretching toward the sky. There were Xyrillians everywhere, moving with the precise coordinated motions of beings sharing a single consciousness. William felt a moment of doubt. These aliens had nearly destroyed humanity. They had conquered countless worlds, exterminated entire species, yet watching them now in their home, they seemed almost peaceful. Remember why we're here, he whispered to himself. Remember Neptune. Remember Mars. The team reached the edge of the city. Here, they would be most vulnerable. Their stealth technology worked best at a distance. Up close, a careful observer might notice slight distortions in the air. We need a distraction, William said. Paul nodded and pulled out a small device. I've been saving this. It's based on their own technology, but with a human twist. He grinned. It should confuse the hell out of them. He activated the device and tossed it toward the opposite side of the city. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the sky lit up with impossible colors, shapes that shouldn't exist folding in on themselves. What did you do? Olivia asked, staring at the display. Introduced a logical paradox into their visual network, Paul explained. Their minds try to process it mathematically and get stuck in a loop. Sure enough, every Xyrillian in sight turned toward the distortion, their crystalline bodies vibrating with confusion. The path to the central nexus was clear. The team moved swiftly through the city streets. They encountered no resistance. All attention was focused on the paradox disrupting their network. They reached the central nexus, a towering structure of crystal and light that pulsed with the combined consciousness of billions of Xyrillians. This is it, William said. Once we activate the Phoenix device, there's no going back. They'll know we're here. Everyone nodded. They had all volunteered, knowing the risks. William carefully removed the device from his back and began the activation sequence. The Phoenix hummed to life, its core glowing with a warm golden light, so different from the cold blue of Xyrillian technology. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the city. The paradox distraction had run its course. The Xyrillians were returning to normal awareness, and they had detected the intruders. We're out of time, William said. Defensive positions. We need to protect the Phoenix until it fully activates. Crystalline guards rushed toward them from all directions. Paul took up position at one entrance, firing his weapon at the approaching aliens. Olivia guarded another, her reflexes unnaturally fast thanks to her neural implants. A guard broke through, heading straight for William and the device. William raised his weapon, but the alien was too fast. A crystal blade sliced across his arm, cutting deep. William fell back, blood seeping through his armor. Engineer Paul Jackson saw his captain fall. Without hesitation, he charged forward, drawing the guard's attention. Complete the mission, he shouted as he provided covering fire. One by one, the guards overwhelmed him. Paul fought to his last breath, buying precious seconds for his team. William, despite his injury, dragged himself back to the Phoenix. The activation was at 90%. Just a few more seconds. The Phoenix activated with a pulse of golden energy that spread outward in all directions. It passed through solid matter as if it weren't there, touching the mind of every Xyrillian on the planet. The effect was immediate and profound. The aliens stopped in mid-motion, their coordinated movements falling into disarray. Some collapsed to the ground, overwhelmed by sudden individuality. Others stood perfectly still, trying to comprehend what had happened. In space, the battle took a sudden turn. The Xyrillian ships, previously moving with perfect coordination, began to drift, aimlessly. Some continued fighting, but many simply stopped, their crews unable to function without the collective consciousness that had guided them all their lives. Admiral Carter, watching from the Defiance, could hardly believe what he was seeing. It worked, he whispered. My God, it actually worked. On the planet's surface, William and his remaining team members watched in awe as the Xyrillians around them transformed. The aliens were experiencing individual thought for the first time, some with terror, others with wonder. One Xerillian approached William, moving hesitantly, no longer part of the perfect coordination that had defined its species. It made a sound, not the mathematical tones of before, but something rougher, more emotional. It's trying to communicate, Olivia realized. As an individual, days later, a delegation of elder Xerillians approached the human forces under a flag of truce. They had a request that stunned the human representatives. They wanted to learn how to live as individuals. News of the victory spread throughout the galaxy. Species that had hidden from the Xerillians for generations emerged, seeking contact with the humans who had accomplished the impossible. Trade routes opened, cultural exchanges began, and humanity found itself at the center of a galactic renaissance. But the story spread even faster than the truth. On distant worlds, tales were told of the ferocious humans who had defeated the undefeatable Xerillians. In the telling, humans became giants who could see in the dark and survive in vacuum. Some said humans could read minds, others that they could not be killed. The galaxy learned to fear humans not because of their cruelty, but because of their adaptability, their creativity, and their determination to survive against all odds. And so the moment humanity became the galaxy's most feared species wasn't when they destroyed their enemies. It was when they chose to help them change instead.